When we hear the word gossip, we frequently think petty, guilty pleasure, maybe even mean. But today, I'd like to invite you to see gossip as a remarkable feat of human social cognition. Human groups are by far the largest in the animal kingdom, and much of that achievement comes down to how we share information. Because our communities can number in the hundreds, we cannot know everything firsthand. We can't tune into every conversation, we can't observe every relationship directly. Gossip helps us circumvent this limitation. It's one of the most efficient tools we have for navigating the vast and complex webs of social connections that we're all embedded in. We rely on secondhand information all the time to decide who to trust, to get a sense of who's close to whom, to figure out who should hear a piece of gossip, and sometimes, just as importantly, who shouldn't. So my research asks a deceptively simple question, but one that has been surprisingly understudied. How do people gossip strategically? As a cognitive scientist, my approach to this question is to build precise enough experiments where we can elicit the kinds of strategic behaviors that we hope to understand. And then we use statistical tools to unpack the computations that give rise to these behaviors. So in the lab, I asked people, our participants, to learn the friendships among 9 individuals, a small, artificial, novel social network. And then I tell them that gossip about one of these individuals has emerged, the subject. Their goal is to spread gossip about the subject as widely as possible without it getting back to them. Participants made these decisions very quickly for many different people in the network. And what we found was that they were not sharing randomly, nor were they using a one-size-fits-all solution, like always tell the most popular person. Instead, they weighed 2 things at the same time. First, how far away is this individual from the subject? The further, the safer. But secondly, how well connected is this individual? A popular person might be a good broadcaster, but if they're also close friends with the subject, then that's exactly the wrong person to tell. And we found that participants weighed this trade-off quite well. They were more willing to share when gossip could circle widely, and more cautious when it could circle back. They recalibrated this every time for different subjects in the network. And this is impressive because people had just learned a brand new set of relationships. Within a very short amount of time, they were making context-sensitive decisions to achieve a complex communication goal, one that they were not prepared for ahead of time. But of course, the social networks that you and I are a part of are messy, sprawling, and constantly changing. So the natural follow-up question is whether the same kind of sensitivity that we find people have to network structure also applies in the real world. And to find that out, we mapped the friendships of an incoming cohort of Brown undergrads here at Brown. This is what their network looked like in the early days of their first semester here. And we gave them a similar version of the task. If news about someone emerges somewhere in this network, how likely is it that somebody else will hear about it? The same behavioral pattern held. Even in this large emerging community, we found that people were reasoning about information flow by using a combination of distance and popularity. But what's striking is that in both cases, people didn't have a diagram of the network in front of them like the one I'm showing you here. So how were they able to draw on knowledge of distance and popularity? Computational modeling gave us some insight. Our winning model showed that people were not just tracking direct relationships, A is connected to B. They were also sensitive to the indirect paths that connect 2 individuals. Think about it like water finding its way through the cracks. Information, in a similar way, does not travel only in straight lines. It diffuses. And people seem to have an intuitive sense of this, not just who can reach whom, but through how many different routes. What I hope I've shown you today is that gossip is a window into something that we often take for granted, our mental capacity to hold a map of our vast, complex social worlds and to use it to make inferences with a sophistication that we're only beginning to understand scientifically. So the next time you find yourself deciding whether to share a piece of gossip with someone, that's not pettiness. That's centuries of social intelligence running quietly and efficiently in the background. Thank you.